Hi, I'm Lydia and I'm Film Probe, and I'm going to be talking you through everything that I watched day one of the Cine International Film Festival here in London. I got invited to go and watch as many movies as I can, so I'm really excited to share my thoughts with you. So, my experience at the film festival so far, it's literally the first day, and I've only seen some short films. There's a screening this evening that I obviously haven't gone to yet because I'm talking in the morning. But I want to talk about the short films because I love short films. I think they represent the new emerging talent within the film industry. And it's really exciting to see short films, to just see what people are making and what stories they want to tell. I find short films really fascinating. I think you can learn a lot from watching people make short films. You can see so much in a small space of time with a short film, which I find fascinating. So this morning there was about 10 short films that they screened one after the other. You didn't really have much time to kind of collect your thoughts between each one, but I also really liked how it threw you into the next one. And there was a mix of really strong stories and films that just really captivated my attention, and ones I really, really remember, and other ones which were visually very stunning, but not necessarily a story that I would want to kind of explore further. I find with a short film, after you've watched it, it's a good sign when you think, I can see this developing into something bigger. I can see this story going somewhere. I can see these characters going somewhere and developing. So when I feel that, I get really excited by a short film. And I just want to talk about my all-time favorites, the ones that I remember the most, the ones that really stuck out to me. So the first one I want to talk about is called Norma. Norma starred Nicole Byer, who you may recognize from television. She's like quite a big American TV presenter. Very charismatic, very bubbly on screen, so I knew that she would bring this amazing energy to it, and she did. Norma is a wacky character who at the beginning of the film is wearing like bright neon colors, and she's singing in the car, and you just instantly fall in love with her. Nicole has this energy about her where she's amazing. And then you realize that she actually has killed all of her ex-boyfriends and they're buried in her garden, and she has to dig them up and find the right one in order to kind of unlock this key to love and relationships and the key to finding herself. It was very funny, very dark, comedic, surreal. I really enjoyed it. It did not go the way I thought it would. I thought it was just going to be a pure comedy, but it was so dark. And when she revealed these bodies, you were like, oh my God. It was a really fun short film and very memorable, really silly and wacky, and my kind of film. I loved how it wasn't very realistic. It was very, very surrealist, but in the best way. Funny. So funny. Another short that was screened this morning was called A Matter of Minutes. Now, this one was probably my favorite that I watched this morning. It was really strong and I loved it. And it was based off of a true story. It was so well shot and performed. Very simple, but very poignant too. And it was edited so well. A Matter of Minutes was directed by Hannah Beach, and it basically tells the story of a 17-year-old girl who goes to one of her first house parties, and she's severely allergic to nuts. And she ends up kissing a guy who has just eaten a piece of cake that has nuts in it, and she has a major allergic reaction. Sounds very simple, but it was so tense and climactic, and it built and built and built to this moment, and you honestly didn't know if she was going to be okay or not. It was very well done, anxiety inducing. It's her fighting for her life in the most ridiculous scenario, with people drinking and partying and listening to really loud music, and she just cannot get through to anyone. Nobody is listening to her, nobody can hear her, nobody can see her. She's like invisible in this party, but she's having this severe allergic reaction. And what I love the most is that the aspect ratio of the film would change. So when this young girl started having her allergic reaction, the film changed. The borders of the shot started to come in and in and in and in right on her face, and all you could see was just a little bit of her. And I thought that was really, I didn't explain that very well, sorry, but it was kind of closing in on her. I guess as her throat was closing up, it was closing in. And I just loved that visually, kind of poetic with the way it was edited and the way it was shot like that. So clever. Really loved this one. Another short film I want to talk about was called Tinfoil. Now, this short film was directed by Bella Lloyd-Webber, and it's about sisterhood. A bond between sisters. It was really beautiful. Really telling you to check in on people and to support people around you, and you never quite know what somebody's going through. Being a sister, it resonated with me. I loved the performances in this one. It was, again, very simple, It was all shot in essentially the corridor of these girls' house. And the one sister hadn't been out of bed in 2 weeks. She was struggling mentally, and the other sister tries to get her out of bed. And they argue with one another, but they also have this really beautiful moment where they realize that you can be in those dark times, but just having someone try and help you get out of it means everything. It was very much based on the performances of these girls. It was heavily reliant on them being good, and they were. They were very emotional, present with one another, and had great chemistry. And I really liked this one. On the simpler side, but it meant it had a lot of heart to it, and I loved that. Another short film was called Cherry Bee, and this was directed by Ornella Hawthorne Gardez. Aesthetically really cool. Set in 1969, this group of housewives essentially are trying to speak to spirits, trying to get a supernatural reaction. They're drinking cocktails, they're summoning spirits. It was really tongue-in-cheek. It was quite comedic. One of the women, her daughter, comes in and asks if she can sit in as they're summoning these spirits. And I think from what I gathered from the short film, they didn't necessarily give us any answers. Something was summoned that then attached itself to this young girl. Later in the short, she realizes that she might have more power than she thinks. And I thought it was a very simple one. I liked it. It was memorable aesthetically. I just loved the aesthetic of the 1960s, and I love how everyone was wearing kind of pastel colours. It felt very Stepford Wives, kind of Don't Worry Darling, and I liked the aesthetic of this one, and it stuck in my brain aesthetically. Another one of the short films I want to talk about was called Lighthearted. Really surprised me. I was very, very intrigued by this one. I loved it. I thought it was so clever. It felt like a Black Mirror episode, dystopian future with technology and extreme technology. It starred Gillian Wright and Simon Greenhall. It was directed by Cy Allen, and the film follows this character of this woman whose husband has passed away, and she gets sent this parcel in the mail that's almost like a pyramid. She's able to bring a form of her husband back, almost like a projection of him is able to be in her house and talk with her. It was really interesting. Like I said, it was like Black Mirror. It was very dystopian. It was very odd. Like, her husband has passed away. His urn is on the counter, and yet she's talking to this kind of fake version of her husband who has his memories and has his knowledge, but isn't him. I think the film described him as a flicker of him, which I really liked. This film was inspiring. So the final short film I want to discuss was called Learners. It starred Roger Allam, Emma Hartley, and Jack Gleeson, directed by Paul Tester. Again, it had this simplicity to it and a repetitive sense and a mundane kind of vibe to it, but it was the beauty in relationships. It was commenting on the beauty of finding your way and deciding who you are and making decisions to better yourself. It was all framed under this routine of this young woman who's going for a driving lesson or, learning to drive with her boyfriend's dad. So her boyfriend's dad takes her out in his car and she's learning to drive. They go on a number of lessons together, and it tells you at the bottom, it's like lesson 2, lesson 4, lesson 8. Their relationship develops through these lessons. As she's learning to drive, they learn more about each other, they start to bond. And I really liked it. It was kind of heartbreaking and really sweet and very human, and it resonated with me. I thought it was really well done. It was well performed, it was well written, it was repetitive, but I liked that, because in routine and you learn things about yourself and you learn things about each other. And I liked as well that only people who've learned to drive will understand how high stakes learning to drive is, especially when you're in someone else's car. It's pressure on you instantly, and I really love that mentality of feeling the pressure of this situation. Can't crash this guy's car right now, and I'm driving on the road and there are people around me and it's scary, but also I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I feel confused, I feel trapped. And yeah, I thought this one was really strong. There was so much there to explore, and I really, really enjoyed it. There were a few other short films. That wasn't all the ones I saw this morning, but that was just a few of the ones I really wanted to discuss with you, the ones that have really stuck in my brain, and the ones that I needed to just get the info out of my brain onto the screens. I am going to be going to a screening this evening for Savage Flowers, directed by Brad Watson, and this is the world premiere of this film, and I'm really excited to watch it. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to share my thoughts with you this evening after I've watched it. So yeah, for you it'll be like that. Hi, I'm back with my review of Savage Flowers. So where I left you, that was yesterday, I was talking about I'm about to go see Savage Flowers, and I have now seen it. It's the next day. So Savage Flowers' world premiere was at the Curzon Cinema yesterday in Soho. It was such a cool experience for me. I'd never really been to something like that. They put out a red carpet. They had kind of celebrities there, and Roger Taylor was there, which is so cool. So the premiere, like I said, was something really new for me. I'd never been to something like that. Kind of in a room, hustle and bustle, everyone's in the industry talking about the industry. It was really, really exciting, and I met some really great people. And then when we went into the screening, it was full, such a brilliant turnout for CIFF. This is their first year as a festival, and it's so far been really, really great. Had a few drinks. It was a really lovely vibe. And then after the film, there was a Q&A with the cast and the writer. That was really, really exciting and gave us a little insight into each actor's process and also the writer and his inspiration behind bringing this story to life. So I really appreciated being able to experience that. Then, after the screening, CIFF wanted to do a little march to celebrate and save independent cinema. We were given kind of whistles and little flags to kind of go down the streets of Soho to promote independent cinema, which is something I'm incredibly passionate about. The future of cinema is independent cinema. So I believe very strongly that it's something we need to care about and something we need to nurture. And film festivals like CIFF, they look after these creative, and I think just supporting film festivals like this and watching the movies and sharing your thoughts is the smallest thing you can do to just be part of that voice, be part of that movement. More on the film Savage Flowers. The film's premise is young girls carry this disease, and they're called carriers, and it's a deathly disease to adults. So young girls are kind of being eliminated on the planet because adults are scared of catching this disease from them. It's a very interesting story. It was written during COVID, so it's obviously heavily influenced by the whole idea of a pandemic and its impact on young people, and specifically its impact on young women. The writer afterwards described the process and the film as very Lord of the Flies, and that just spoke 1,000 words for me, and it made so much sense after seeing the film. I was like, yes. So the premise of the film is these young girls, there's 5 of them, are in this kind of boarding house, locked away, isolated, hidden almost from the outside world, because otherwise people would want to eliminate them. So they're hidden in this boarding school, and they're looked after by one of the teachers there. It's pretty mundane, it's pretty boring, so they end up coming up with some very unconventional ways of keeping themselves occupied. Each of the characters is a very distinct personality type. So you have the new girl to the group. She's quite young, she's vulnerable. You then have the head girl of the group, the mean one, the bully, and you also have like her minions, and then you have the quiet one who's very nervous and shy to share her opinions and her thoughts. Each character and the girls who played them did a really good job at distinctly being very unique characters, and I enjoyed that. The girls themselves were the best part of this film. Watching them interact with each other and their chemistry on screen was really strong, especially the actress who played Lilith. She was the bully character, the mean one. She was a really, really interesting character. I genuinely was very drawn to her. The film itself had very like folklore influences. It felt like a group of witches almost. It was very coven-like. It felt like this little cult that they'd created. And personally, I really like movies that go that way. It was very witchy. It was very, witchy. I think for me, when I came out of the film and was able to process the film, I did find there were a lot of open-ended questions. There were a lot of moments which did not go anywhere else, undeveloped storylines and plot lines, and the film overall seemed to touch on a lot of themes but not go into any further depth with any of them. And that was a bit sad, because then by the end of the film, it was slightly anticlimactic, the ending. You felt like not that much happened. So I think visually, the film was quite gorgeous. Like, it really was really beautifully done, and some very long shots and very, very elegant movie put together. And it was shot in this big, gorgeous house. It kind of looked like the house from Bridgerton. So aesthetically, the film did a really good job for me. And like I said, folklore, witches, kind of cults. It was embedded in all of these themes, and I really enjoyed that. In saying that, though, the film was simple. It didn't dive into anything too deeply. It was all very surface level. The film overall was interesting. It was memorable. It felt familiar. It was somewhat predictable at the end, and like I said, a little bit anticlimactic. I kind of wanted the film to shock me more than it did. I'll explain one scene to you. It was brilliantly shot. I love the way it was shot. It was incredibly intense, like anxiety-inducing scene. And the writer said afterwards in the Q&A that it was actually inspired by an experience he had as a child. And that was quite horrible to hear. The scene was these young girls have pinned the new girl and they're pinning her to the ground. And the horrible bully girl tells one of them to pick up a rock and hold it over her head for 20 seconds. And she's shaking and the young girl's screaming and they're all laughing. And it was a brilliant scene, probably the best scene of the whole film, if I'm honest. And part of me, I know how horrible it sounds, part of me really wanted her to drop the rock on her head, because I thought that's going to send this story in a way that I have no idea how it's going to end and what they're going to do with this story and what they're going to do with these girls. Part of me wanted this film to shock me, and instead it engaged me. I was there, I was thrilled by it, I was in it, I was intrigued by it, but it didn't shock me, and I really wanted it to surprise me more than it did. I just felt like I knew what was going to happen, and then it ended and nothing really happened, and I felt like we needed more. I want to know what happens to these girls next. They're in this house alone. What are they going to do? The costumes and the masks that the girls wear are really interesting. Like, I really liked them. They looked authentic, like these girls had made these costumes. Like, I liked it, felt very real. And the actors all made it very real. It was a real world that I was watching, and that was brilliant. But for me, it just lacked that depth. It lacked that shock factor that I was really, really craving. And after the film, like I said, we did this little march, cheer for independent cinema. And then we went back to the Karma Sanctum Soho hotel, which is a really lovely hotel. And that's where the festival is in partner with the hotel. And a lot of their screenings are taking place there. And there was a little after party. And it was really cool, like really interesting. Like I said, I've never been to a film festival like this before. It's my first experience of being invited to one, having the chance to watch all these films and talk about these films with you and discuss them. So I'm having the best time, and I've only been to one day of it, but it's really great so far. This festival is bringing a new vibe to London independent cinema. Really exciting to see all of these short films, and I'm so excited to see more. So I'm going back on Friday and Saturday of this week, and I'll be doing the same thing, like talking you through what I'm doing. But make sure you follow me over on Instagram, because I'm also going to start doing some reviews of the short films and films I've seen on Instagram, more cohesive written reviews, and I'm also going to do a little kind of videos on TikTok. So make sure that you follow me over on all of those platforms if you are on them. And if not, thank you for watching me here. And I can't wait to watch the rest of these films. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.